monsoon season. But on some days, we find that the weather is bright and sunny as well. Do you know what causes difference in the weather of a particular area? Out of the many factors, wind currents is a major influencing factor that can lead to the change of weather in a particular area. Let us get to know about wind currents in a bit more detail. We have seen that the rise in temperature causes air on the surface to warm up. As a result, the air gets less dense and rises up, and the cooler, dense air comes down to the surface. That's how wind currents are generated. But this is not limited only to a small area on the Earth's surface. In fact, the entire globe is affected due to wind currents. Let us understand how exactly wind currents move on the surface of our planet. For this, let's visualize the globe first. This is how it looks, right? And can you tell me why this imaginary line is drawn here at the center? Yes, that's the equator. It tells us that this part is the top half of the planet and this one is the lower half. The northern and the southern hemisphere respectively. What do we know about the equatorial region? We know the fact that the equatorial region receives maximum sunlight. This is the region which is heated the most, and the regions near the poles are the coolest. Let's guess what could happen next. Maybe the heated air will rise up and start moving towards the cooler region. So maybe the warm air travels to the poles and the cooler air from the poles will try getting to the equatorial region. Simple, isn't it? Not really. It's not as easy as it seems. Let's understand why I'm saying so. We know that the Earth is tilted, and most importantly, it's not only revolving around the sun but is also rotating around an axis at the same time. Due to various such factors, the warm air from the equator rises up, and as it travels towards the poles, it gets cooler somewhere along the way and returns to the equator. So instead of the winds blowing straight from the equator to the pole, their flow gets divided in parts. To understand this, let's first understand how the globe is divided for this purpose. For our convenience, we divide the Earth into 6 major sections called the cells. As we can see, one cell is from the equator till 30 degrees north, and from there till 60 degrees north, and then 60 degrees north to 90 degrees north. This region from 60 degrees north to 90 degrees north is the polar cell, and this is replicated in the southern hemisphere. So these 6 imaginary cells have a pattern of wind currents. Now let us zoom in to learn the pattern of air in this cell. What do we see? We can see that the warm air from the equator rises up and moves towards the poles, and the cooler air moves down at the 30-degree point. Now as it moves over the surface of the Earth, it warms up and rises up at 0 degrees when it gets heated. In the adjacent cell, from the 30-degree point to the 60-degree point, the air moves down at the 30-degree point. This is cool dry air which moves across the Earth's surface. And as the air sweeps across the surface, it gets warm. Due to this, the air rises, but at the 60-degree point. And thus, in the next cell also, the air is seen rising up at 60-degree point. And as it moves across, it gets colder and finally moves downwards at the 90-degree point, which is the pole. And this same pattern is seen in the southern hemisphere as well. This is what creates a lot of pressure difference in the regions where these cells meet each other. As a result, stronger wind currents are generated. These strong wind currents influence the pattern of weather and climate at any point on the Earth. Is there anything else that influences the weather and climate on Earth? Yes, another factor is uneven heating of land and water on Earth. Let's have a look at this factor in the upcoming video. We've had a look at the concept of wind currents and how they affect the climate and weather on Earth. In this lesson, let's get to know about the other factor which influences weather and climate patterns on the Earth. Do you know what brings us rains? The monsoon winds brings us rains. Yes, and how are monsoon winds formed? Are they different from the winds which blow across the Earth's surface usually? Let's find that out. We have already seen that when air above the land's surface heats and rises up, the air above the adjacent sea or ocean tries to move towards land. This difference in the pressure of the two areas results in winds. Now imagine that this region on the equator, which has water surrounding it, gets heated up during summer. The heat results in the air rising up. Now don't you think this will create a low pressure zone on the land? To fill this void, the air above the water, which is cooler, rushes in. Hence, the cooler, denser air with moisture sweeps across the Earth's surface, arising from the sea or ocean. These moisture-laden winds, which bring rains, are called the monsoon winds. The formation of these winds and the precipitation, that is rainfall, is a part of the natural water cycle. However, the natural phenomenon can even turn to a natural disaster. There are many other natural disasters which pose a danger to life. Let's get to know a few in the upcoming videos.